What's going on, everybody? I'm Aslan Hajavani, joined by managing editor of WarChant.com, Ira Schoffel. It is showtime with Ira Schoffel. Thanks for being here with us, Ira. We do appreciate it. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to adapt this into a podcast. Is that okay? This is your intellectual property. Can I use it?
You can use whatever you want, buddy, but I don't know if we need to do all that either. It's just, this is, it's under a different umbrella. I don't even know if it's part of the Wake Up family.
Oh, you're right. But still, though, anything that's got your name on it is ratings gold, so we would like to be able to use it.
Sure.
Folks, before we get started, if you could, well, actually, we're going to start regardless. If you could like this video, it's an important thing. It's the way they keep score these days. You'll tell your kids about it someday, and subscribe maybe as well. I keep doing this, but it's nowhere near me. It's near Ira. Ira, you go like this. I'm kidding. Don't do that, Ira. You do whatever you want to do. But yeah, if you could subscribe, it'd be a great thing. It's totally free. You can set the notifications however you want it. So when shows like this drop, or the podcast, or Michael Langston's recruiting chats, which we'll have one tomorrow, you'll get a notification. It's totally free, all that good stuff. So like it, subscribe it, learn to love it. So we'll be taking phone calls, per usual, 850-792-5730. And we'll also be taking some questions from the Tribal Council on WarChant.com. Without further ado, we've got a phone call, Ira. Whoever could it be? Welcome on into Showtime with Ira Schoffel. First caller of the night. Who we got?
Hey, Aslan. Hey, Ira. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, man?
Who is this?
I'm sorry. It's Gator Kirk. How are you all?
G-Unit. What's going on, G? How are you, man?
I'm good. It's nice to be on the big show now.
Yeah.
I can't believe that. I mean, Corey is going to be so upset that Ira's going to get some props, and I can't imagine how much I'll have to hear on this and some headlines in the future. So, but anyway, here I do have a question for you, because I knew you all did your top 40. At the end of the season, do you go back and re-rank the kids based on how they actually did, and do a comparative analysis on how well you all did for like bragging rights? Or
this is my first time.
Plus or minus.
Gee, this is my first time actually being part of the top 40. I haven't been part of them in the past. They don't do that, but I like that a lot. That's a good idea. I think we should do it. I'm going to keep Corey honest on the podcast. I know that.
Yeah, plus or minus, let's say 4 positions, give you some room for error.
I froze for a second. So what is he saying? To go back and track it as the year goes on?
Well, basically, after the dust settles on this season, do we go back and look how we ranked everybody and where they should be ranked after the season is over? Yeah,
I'm all for it. I think we might have done it once and realized that might not be the best idea. But yeah, I'm all for it. I'm down for it. I mean, the reality is, and listen to Corey and Aslan give their explanations. I mean, the thing my argument with Corey always is he'll talk about how it's about the position, and he'll say, oh, well, I put this guy high because quarterback's so important, or offensive tackle is so important. It's like, okay, but we're not rating positions. I mean, that's part of it, but also part of it is, do you think that guy can make a difference at that position? But no, it sounds good. I'm all for some accountability as the process goes along.
Engine Noel, thanks for the like. We appreciate that. Yeah, gee, I don't know. Maybe we'll be able to do it, though. Who knows? If the season ever gets off the ground, maybe we'll do something like that. So we'll look into it.
Yeah, and to make sure you guys actually hit like, because if you don't, sometimes you'll be watching stuff and ads will pop up. I was watching something the other day. Anyway, y'all have a great evening. Thank you so much for everything you do, and go Noles.
Thanks, man. Appreciate the call, man. Thank you, bud.
All right. Good night.
It's like, I don't know if I want to meet G, but I kind of don't. I just want him to be this mysterious figure, and I just want him to be a voice, I don't know if I ever want to see the face and everything.
Like the Wizard of Oz, the guy behind the curtain. You just
exactly.
It was a letdown when we actually saw what the wizard looked like.
Yeah, I know, right? Just behind some weird curtains, some fat old guy. Wasn't it some fat old guy?
Not all that impressive.
No, not at all. Let's take a question here from YouTube right here. Oh, man, sorry. I should have probably read this. I just saw, hey, Ira, so I'm like, I might as well take it. But language, contract, ESPN, grant of rights, all that kind of stuff. That's a complicated one. How about we set that one on the shelf?
We'll table it and come back.
Marinate. We'll get back to the phone calls here. Welcome on into Scho-Time with Ira Schoffel, managing editor of WarChant.com, the ultimate Semble sports source. Who we got here on the phone?
It's Jeremy. How you guys doing?
What's up, Jeremy? Doing good, man.
Jeremy, how's it going, man?
I almost got Kirk.
It's good quest.
Hey, before my question, I just wanted to clarify one thing. Aslan, I appreciate the shout out on the show the other day. But I just wanted to say that John Jones is the younger brother of Arthur, who started for the Ravens and won the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Chandler's his younger brother.
All right.
So, yeah, that family produced 2 NFL defensive linemen and the best MMA fighter of all time.
Not bad. Good stock.
Question. Ira, I asked Corey this and Aslan too to some degree. So I wanted to get your take on this, or a situation you had when you guys were in Gainesville for Jimbo's last game and Jimbo went ballistic on you guys. And I think you made the comment, we deserve to know. What was going through your head when he went ballistic on you and said he was going to even write an article about you?
Honestly, my first thought was, man, this dude's really gone, isn't he? Like, up until that point, I kind of thought, well, he might still back out because, you know, we felt pretty good that he was going to go to Texas A&M from everything we had been hearing out of Texas, and just kind of reading the tea leaves. But everybody close to Jimbo, his family members that, you know, very close friends, what his kids were saying to people at school was that, no, it's not true. He's staying at Florida State. So we were conflicted those few weeks leading up to that game. But when he did that in that press conference, I said, there's no way this guy's staying. Like, this is clearly him doing it because he knows he's not going to have to deal with us again and, you know, putting on his show. And then my other thought was, like, I'm really surprised that FSU's administration is letting him do this because he looked like an idiot. I mean, he just how many
Hey.
I said he looked like an idiot. I didn't say he was an idiot. I mean, how many press conferences have we seen? Have you ever seen anybody do that? It was crazy.
Gundy.
Yeah, I mean Gundy, but that was yeah, I mean Gundy, I guess to a degree, but that was to one specific person. It was just nuts. So that was the biggest thing to me is like, okay, this is for real. He's not going to be here. As it turned out, he thought he was still going to be there a week later for that last game, but you know, John Thrasher had other ideas.
Well, guys, thanks once again. You guys are awesome. Take care. Go Noles.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Rate and review War Chant and like on YouTube.
There you go.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it. Checks in the mail, man. Oh, man. I feel like it's going to be 2024 and we'll still get calls about Jimbo and like Taggart. And we had somebody ask about lost decade stuff. And then Corey pawned it off onto you. He's like, oh, you really should ask the good days.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't even know. I wonder how much I remember. It's one of those things. It's like when you start talking to friends about high school, like the lost decade, like, you know, it's like you have to be sitting around with a bunch of friends from high school and then like somebody will tell a story and that'll lead to another. Because I mean, if you just like starting from scratch, so much happened. Back then, like every week was something crazy. From, you know, the Adrian McPherson stuff to Fred Rouse to, I mean, it was one thing after another.
We have a question about the offensive line and a projected 2 deep, but folks,
Saved by the Bell.
Wait for that one. What's going on? It's Scho-Time with Ira Schoffel. Who we got here on the phone line?
Aslan, how you doing, man? This is JJ from Clearwater.
JJ from Clearwater, Mr. 727. What's going on, JJ?
What's going on? How you doing, Ira?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Let me ask you a question. So there's a lot of prospects out there that not getting, you know, the looks that a lot of people do. And I know we follow a lot of people who have stars, but, you know, and when you see a lot of these all-state players, they don't have stars. So we're passing up a lot of great talent. What do we do on that? You know, there's a lot of people getting unseen, you know, at this moment. So I'm just wondering, like, why is it everybody constantly following stars and these guys come out and they're not a 5-star, they're not a 4-star, you know?
Yeah, you know, it's really a lot of it's changed over the last, you know, however many years when these camps got so big. And so you know, a lot of the, you know, the Rivals recruiting analysts or the analysts from 247 or ESPN or these different sites, a lot of times they go to these camps and it's an opportunity to evaluate or to watch 200 kids or 300 kids at one time, as opposed to going to each individual school. Same thing with the college coaches. And so what's happening, what's been happening is the kids have to put themselves out there. If you look at, for example, I did a story a couple weeks ago about Hamza Nasruddin, and Hamza, his father played at North Carolina. He played in the state of North Carolina. Hamza grew up in the state of North Carolina, was a star in basketball and football. His dad played at North Carolina. North Carolina didn't even try to offer him because he didn't go to any camps. He didn't go to any showcases. But towards the end of his senior year, he went to the North Carolina, South Carolina Shrine Bowl and blew up. And North Carolina tried to offer at that point. And the family was like, no, man, we've been here this whole time. You haven't been here. So if a kid doesn't put himself out there, they end up being very under-evaluated. They have to, but it's hard for some of these families to get to a camp, to pay for some of these camps cost $300-400 or more, plus the travel. So you have a lot of kids slip through the cracks, and that's where it's up to these high school coaches or these college coaches to do a good job and try to find them, because there's just not enough. There's not enough recruiting analysts to find these kids unless the kids put themselves out there. And it's even worse right now because of the pandemic. There's a ton of kids right now that are either not being evaluated or under-evaluated.
There you go, JJ. That's a pretty thorough explanation, I would say. But it's a problem as old as time, man. I remember when I was in high school, you would read the local paper, like the St. Petersburg Times, and you would see first team All-State and it'd be all these kids, and none of them would go to Florida State or Miami or Florida. It just seems to be production in high school doesn't necessarily translate to college. But Melvin Ray is one of those guys to kind of keep an eye on. That was somebody that Willie felt really good about, thought he was the best player on the field at the 6A or the 7A state championship game. So he's the guy that kind of flew under the radar. So maybe if he shows out, JJ, that shows that maybe they should be paying more attention to those kind of kids. There's
definitely some of that. And part of it also is these high school coaches, a lot of times these high school coaches don't do themselves any favors. If the high school coaches need to be honest with college coaches, and when they have a player who could play at that level, to tell the truth. What sometimes these high school coaches will tell coaches that, for example, I covered a Thomasville high school back in the day, and they had a receiver who was pretty good. He was a good receiver. Well, this high school coach told the University of Florida when Steve Spurrier was there that this kid would have been the best. He would start at wide receiver today when he was a high school senior. And it was crazy. The kid was a nice player, but he was nowhere near that level of a receiver. Well, now if that coach has somebody really good a year later, 2 years later, the college might not listen. So the high school coaches have to do a good job of being truthful. Even if they love kids, they need to be truthful so that the college coaches respect their evaluations.
There you go, JJ. Anything else?
Got you, man. No, that question with the high school coach, but you got some of these high school coaches that haven't played on the next level. They've coaching. So, that can, how can the coach say he can play at the next level when the coach hasn't even touched the next level?
That's a good question. And it's funny, man. Like when I was in high school, like I thought of like my high school coach he played in the NFL. He played for the Dolphins. And I thought that was kind of, I don't know. I just thought the high school coaches, there was a certain standard. But what's happened, I think, in the state of Florida particularly, is because they don't pay, a lot of the best coaches in Florida go to Georgia or other states to get paid. And you'll sometimes see guys get hired as high school coaches at significant high schools in the state of Florida that are like 4 years out of high school or 4 years out of college, 3 or 4 years. I mean, guys that are really new to coaching are getting high level head coaching jobs. But I think that's because high school football in the state of Florida, they just don't pay. So a lot of the best coaches leave.
Well, the coach from Apopka that won like 3 or 4 state championships, he left and went to Mississippi.
Did he?
Alabama, rather. Sorry, Alabama went to Enterprise, Alabama. And I mean, Enterprise is a pretty large high school in Alabama. They haven't won anything of consequence. And it was like, wow, man, like you're going to leave Apopka to come here. But it's just the way it works out. And coaches in Mississippi, they'll retire and they'll double dip. They'll go to another job, but they'll never come to Florida to take a job. They'll go to Arkansas while they draw their pension back in Mississippi. So maybe something we need to work on here in the state of Florida. JJ, we appreciate the call, man.
Thank you so much, fellas. Y'all take care. Be safe.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, brother.
Oh, good old JJ. All right, how about this? Let's see here. Let's go to Nick Slatt. How do you guys think our defense ranks out this year? Our talent is second to none, and personally, I think we will depend on team defense and an improved scheme. Aslan, hype me up. No, this is Scho-Time. Ira, hype him up, man. You're big. You're bullish on the defense, are you not?
I am. I mean, it doesn't, like, to the point he's making. If you go by the personnel, there's no way you can explain that defense is number 90 in the country or whatever. That's why, we had our discussion, I think offline about, I just think that this defense, if they're coached well, and I think they'll be coached better, there's no reason they shouldn't be top 40 or so in defense, maybe even higher than that. Now, the one question I think, and I think you brought it up, or Corey brought it up, maybe, that's valid is, a lot of these players haven't been successful. So they've got to learn.
That's a Corey thing. No, that's Corey and his whole DNA. And
I roll my eyes at some of that, but where I do think there's some truth in that is you have to have the mindset to play defense. Like, you have to have a team mindset. You have to trust everybody else. You have to believe in the scheme. So you do wonder if some of these guys who have never had that, have never believed in this scheme, have never believed in this coaching staff since they've been at Florida State the last 2 or 3 years, for whatever reason, rightly or wrongly, when things don't go well, are they going to keep believing? So we have to see that. But from a talent standpoint, it's ridiculous. There's no way they should be in the bottom half of the country. I think they definitely could be a top 40 defense, and I think they will. I think Adam Fuller's a good coach. I think it's a good staff. So I am bullish on it. And I think that's where the quarterback decision may come down to whoever's not going to make mistakes. Because if you got a really good defense, you're not going to want to have a quarterback that's making a lot of mistakes out there and setting up a short field or giving up pick sixes.
Fair enough. How about this, Ira? Chris McLeod likes your past.
Sounds like you put it through though. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's not FSU necessarily, even though FSU guys all involved with it, but just trying to find a way to talk about things outside of FSU sports. So appreciate that, Chris.
How about Matt Combs? He wants a 2 deep, Ira. Let's do it, man. Offensive line. Who you got, man? Starting from left tackle, move all the way to right tackle. Give me your 2 deep, Ira. Come on. Next 2
off the bench. He wants a 3 deep.
Oh shoot. I'll do 2 deep. I'm gonna take some mercy on you, man.
You got
15, even have 15. They do have 15 offensive linemen.
We like Washington at left tackle.
Yeah.
We like I guess we'll go Brady Scott at left guard. I don't know though. I'm probably Brady Scott at left guard. Although I do think he's going to get pushed a little bit by Maurice Smith, redshirt freshman, the young guy. And then at center, I'm going to go with Baselli, but Bavion is probably 55-45 there. And that's one position where we definitely have the 2 deep. It's going to be Baselli and Bavion, or Bavion and Baselli. Right guard, we've got Dante Lucas, obviously. And then a right tackle, my man from FIU, Devontae Love-Taylor. The backups, I think guard and center, they're solid. You got Bavion or Baselli a backup. I think I like Maurice Smith. And then even the freshman from Madison, Zane Herring.
Look at you.
They seemed to like him in the spring. They had him taking some first team reps in the spring. Backup left tackle, I don't know, man. It's. I guess maybe
Chaz Neal.
Chaz Neal. Yeah. And then backup right tackle.
That's good. That's
maybe a swing there.
Yeah, you got a swing guy. You got a swing guy at guard, and you got a good backup center. So
they have some options. They got some options.
Yeah. All right, we got a phone call here. Thanks for hanging on there for us as Ira finished some of his thoughts. Who we got here on the phone line?
Hey guys, it's Florida Georgia Noel in Alpharetta, Georgia. How's it going tonight?
Going well.
Good, man. How are you?
Good, man. Doing good. Hey, listen, my question, I apologize if it's been discussed. I was getting the kids down for bed, and man, they're not cooperating. So I was late to the call. But no, being up here, I called a few weeks ago, and man, it feels like even a few weeks ago was a world ago. We were discussing if this game in Atlanta was even going to take place. And at that point, Corey, Aslan felt at least more than 50% sure that it was going to happen. What are you thinking now, guys? I feel like, everything that I've seen, even here in the Atlanta area, it's still, moving forward, just like we were, as though this was, January. I saw just the other day, ticket requests for the Virginia game that same weekend. So what do you think's going to happen? I mean, one, is that game going to be played in Atlanta? Two, if not, is it going to be played at all?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I get the sense that they're still trying to figure it out. I wouldn't say it's definitely going to happen in Atlanta.
Sure.
I don't know. What I don't know is, look, I think West Virginia wants to play. I think Florida State wants to play. If there's any way they can play, they're going to play. It wouldn't shock me if maybe they looked at either playing it somewhere else. But then you get the problem of if you try to play it at one of their campuses, it's not really fair to either one because it's a one-off. It's not a home and home. So from what I can gather, I think they're still looking at it. I think they, obviously the Chick-fil-A Bowl wants it to happen there. It makes the most, it would be the easiest thing to do probably to still keep it there. But I think that nothing's set in stone. It wouldn't surprise me if we heard in a week or 2 weeks that they've decided they can't do it and they're going to do something else. But those decisions, the only good news here is they really have to decide within the next couple of weeks. They can't go on much more than probably mid-July. They're going to have a decision.
You think so?
So we should hear something soon, I think.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, I feel like in a lot of ways, you hear the talk of, these universities, conferences, they have time on their side, but you're right, that time is quickly dwindling. So yeah, it's just so in some ways it feels like, pandemic aside, it kind of has the feel of that Virginia Tech build up, right? Which, man, let's not even talk about that game 2 years ago. But at the same time, it just feels like, man, this would be such a huge game for Norvell, for this staff, for this team. But I guess we just have to wait and see. But,
yeah. And to your point, like, and what you said at the very beginning is true. Like, I remember sitting here talking back in with Aslan and Corey and Gene and, back 2 months ago thinking, oh, well, they've got 10 weeks, they've got 9 weeks. It's like 2 months to figure it all out. And all of a sudden it's like, we're here in July. Like tomorrow is July. They're going to start those mandatory workouts, the official workouts on July 13th. It's less than 2 weeks away. Yeah. And then you blink and you're in camp. So this whole thing is gone way quicker than we probably expected.
Yeah, it still feels like March to us in some ways, but those the days are quickly going by. So hey guys, appreciate the time. Love listening to you. I feel like I look forward to Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Now Tuesday night. So thanks for keeping the coverage coming. We really appreciate it.
That's awesome, man. Appreciate
Thanks, man.
Florida Georgia. No, appreciate you, man.
All right, guys.
Get those kids
Later.
to sleep. I can say that. I don't have to worry about that sort of stuff.
Man, he's getting them in bed by 7:25. That's been a long time since our kids went to sleep that early.
I don't know who's the boss. All right, let's take a question from Facebook. Timothy Scala maybe. Hi, guys. Just tuned in. I am curious as to what running back starts this upcoming season between Corbin and Layburn, or do you think a different guy steps up? And is it Layburn? Our guy, Jeff Cameron, when I was editing the video, I think called him Kalan Lamorne.
Dude, why are you questioning that? I mean, you care much more about the pronunciations than Jeff Cameron does. So you've been saying Layburn. I'm going to go with you.
Yeah, I'm going with Layburn. I think it's Layburn. That's all I have to say about that, man. Just that, man. Do we not remember that? That play, that singular play, I know Cam's run against Virginia Tech was for much more yardage, but just in terms of like explosive, I mean, that press box was absolutely dead that entire night until that play happened. Everybody started perking up like, "Ooh, look what just happened!" So
Yeah,
man, I'm rolling with Laburn, man. I am, at least.
I like him. You know, the thing, but I really like Jashawn Corbin. I'll tell you what, man. Like back when he was committed to Florida State, and I pay a little bit more attention to the recruiting than you guys do because I have to edit all of Michael's stories, and I'm part of that process.
Yes.
You guys are not.
You are.
So and a lot of times I'll check out some of the videos, and man, I remember when that kid committed, I was super impressed by him. Then when he bailed with Jimbo, I remember being bummed because I really liked him. That class, he was one of the guys I really, really liked. Then he went and played as a true freshman at A&M, and I'm thinking, man, that's it really stinks for Florida State because I think he's a really nice player. And then sure enough, he ends up coming here. So I think he's really good. Did you see the other day where Jaden Lars-Woodby and a couple of the players were kind of throwing shade at the media a little bit about Jaden tweeted something, and I don't have a problem with it.
Jaden subtweeting me, Thor subtweeting me. Come
on.
No,
not you. Like the media in general.
Right. No. What was the gist of it?
It was just something along the lines of that. Don't listen to reporters. They don't really know what's happening. They don't know, which is valid. I mean, it's hard enough for us to know what's happening when they actually have a spring practice and when they actually have off-season workouts. Right. I mean, what's going on? We're all guessing a lot of this right now. But I kind of wondered if that was about maybe some of these, we had our top 40 list. Some of the other sites did similar things as well. And I wonder if it's about some of the assumptions we're making. And I think this is one where a lot of people are making the assumption that Corbin's going to be the guy. And I wonder if guys in the locker room are like, hey, wait a minute, don't forget Laburn. So I don't know that that's what he was talking about. But yeah, I mean, we've probably been quick to anoint Jashawn Corbin, but I do like him a lot. And I'd just like to see Laburn be there consistently and stay healthy.
I need to get like a nickname about me always hanging on to injury news and stuff like that, because I mean, to me, that's like the deciding factor really between those two guys. I just think is that, Laburn is probably fresher. He's further away from his injury. So I would imagine he's been able to rehab a little bit better than Corbin. Hamstrings are really tough, man, but we'll see how it goes, man. I mean, either way, I think the run game will be much improved. I shouldn't say that. I like Cam. I'll take that back. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, but the whole system might be better though.
I like that. Thank you, Ira. It's Showtime after all. And it is a caller here for you, Ira. Who we got on the phone line? All the Florida State fans across the world are listening to you on YouTube. Don't mess it up.
Jay, how's it going?
Good. Jay from Daytona Beach. Jay? That Jay?
Yes, sir.
All right. I got you.
Hey, Jay.
Hey, how's it going, Ira?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I'll keep it quick today because you basically answered the question that I had. But I'll just say this, guys. I'm definitely waiting to be a fan later. You know how the guys say, don't be a fan later? I'm waiting later to come, man, because Jesus Christ. I got a question.
No, they need your support now. Jay, they need your support now, man. Day one. From the
Hey, I'm supporting, but I'm waiting for this later, man. But right. My question is actually for Aslan. But before, I just want to piggyback off something that a couple of callers ago touched on with the recruiting. UCF went in Hawaii and got two awesome quarterbacks. I know you're going to say they're undersized, the level of competition, but like we gotta roll over some of these stones, guys, and find some of this talent. Like you said, it's talent all over the place, man.
Yeah.
Well,
right. And the biggest on that topic, the thing that
quarterback.
Oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that where it's most frustrating, I think, as a fan or as a person in the media, is when they go when the coaches go to another state or go to the Midwest or go to get a guy that's no better than guys in this state. Like there's a lot of good football players in the state of Florida that sometimes get passed over, and then they'll go sign a guy out of Texas or out of California or somewhere else. And it's like, man, you could have found that guy in Florida. But to your point about looking under rocks, I mean, I think the best example that we've seen at Florida State in a long time is this basketball program. And, Devin Vassell, the fact that I remember when the basketball team signed Devin Vassell and I looked him up, I was just like, what are they doing? Like, I didn't know who he was, but I knew that nobody else knew who he was either. Like he had nobody offering him. And they believed in their evaluation, and that these coaches have to do that. I mean, you'd like to hope that this coaching staff's doing it. They get bagged a lot right now because they're going after a lot of 3-star, 2-star, no-star guys, but you have to hope they're good evaluators.
All right, now, Aslan, you ready? This question is for you.
All right. It's Scho-Time, though. It's Scho-Time with Ira Schoffel. Why are you asking the other guy? Come on, man.
Aslan, what's your favorite movie?
Oh. Rocky IV? I mean, that's a tough ask. I mean, like Old School is my favorite comedy movie. Like I love Shawshank Redemption. Who doesn't love Shawshank Redemption? Rocky IV, though, that's like, I mean, if it's on TV, I'm watching it.
Okay, check this out. Now, Casino and Rocky IV are my favorite movies, but you got the answer wrong. You know what the answer is, Aslan?
What's the answer? Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? Chronicles of Narnia?
Bad Boys 2 is your favorite movie.
Oh, you're right. You set me up. I should have had it. Should have had it, man.
Come on, Aslan. Come on, Aslan.
I know. I'm slipping, man. Thanks for keeping me in line.
Aslan. Look it up.
I will, man. Thanks for the call, Jay. I appreciate you, man.
All right. Go Nose.
See you, man.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think we'll be able to sit down with Mike Norvell in Charlotte and ask him that question. But we'll see. I mean, the SEC is supposed to have virtual media days, and they haven't announced their dates yet either. So who knows what's going to happen here. Speaking of which, Casey Owens asks, do you think the ACC will do whatever the SEC will decide to do?
About whether or not to play, I guess, and whether or not to play on time.
Concerning COVID.
I mean, I think a lot of people, okay. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, that's the assumption because traditionally the ACC's kind of followed. They're never the first to act. If you look back at the basketball tournaments getting canceled, the ACC was the last one to pull out. Well, the Big East was the last one, but the ACC was right behind them. And then when everything got shut down earlier this year, it felt like the ACC was kind of waiting to see what everybody else did. I'll say this, man, if the SEC plays, it's going to be hard for the ACC not to play, especially because there's just so much overlap. But then the bigger question is, and it's the question we talked about, man, 2-3 months ago on our hot topics things, is, it may not be full conferences. It may be partial conferences. And where the SEC has the advantage is most of their schools are really centrally located. The vast majority of them are, whereas, the ACC is spread out from the Northeast all the way down to Miami. So, there could be totally different situations. So it's hard to see. But, yeah, I think nobody's going to want to let the SEC be the only conference playing football for sure.
Is it like we're in Vegas and the SEC is like a really rich friend and we're just kind of drafting off them at the table? And if they fold, then it's like, all right, then we're going back to our room too. And we're not going to, we're done for the night. I feel it's like, I mean, yeah, they're the bellwether. I mean, they're going to determine whether or not we play this because they're a lot more invested in. I mean, all that nonsense tagline stuff. It means more. It rings true right now. So,
well, I mean, don't you think some of this is going to come down to what people are willing to stomach? I mean, politically and what's that?
Like, who are the people? I mean, I think fans are fine. I mean, I think most people watching this right now want to actually be in the stadium.
I hear you, but I think the political pressure on the presidents and then liability concerns. And, it's not like, I don't know that there's a hard line in the stand where they would say, this is where we won't cross this line. It's really going to come down to what's too much. They'll get to a point where somebody in the administration or the governor is going to say, okay, we can't do this. But if everybody else is doing it, then maybe that line seems like it's further out than it is. Where if everybody else pulls out, like you've seen the Ivy League's already talking about pulling out or playing in the spring. If you start seeing more of those other conferences do it, now that shines a light on these other conferences and schools to say, wait, they're not going to play, but you are. And now they have to stand up to that political pressure. So a lot of I really think a lot of it's going to be based on, political pressure on, government and also these administrations.
I just feel like, I mean, I don't want to delve too much into it. I find it hard to believe that these states that are predominantly, they have a Republican in the governorship. like they're going to cave to things. I mean, I know like Arizona and Texas are starting to kind of pull back and close some things down. But I wonder, I mean, a lot of that is in regards to these surges and these spikes. I mean, if we're experiencing surges and spikes now, and by the time, we get to August, maybe 3-4 weeks from now, it's not as bad. Maybe, when they focus on saying the fact that, hey, listen, these are 20 to 22-year-olds. They're not part of the problem. They're being tested. Maybe that can get them wiggled out of there. I mean, listen, it's just been hard for me to always wrap my head around this going down. It's always just been the whole fact that it's all about money. Like they can't afford to not play. So I kind of, latched onto that sort of narrative, if you will. But I mean, when you see all these numbers going up and you see minor league baseball has canceled their entire season. I mean, a lot of NBA players aren't going in the bubble. We'll see how it works with Major League Baseball. It would have been really nice if Major League Baseball could have got their stuff together and started their season a lot earlier so we could kind of draft it behind that and figured out what people want to do. Let's go to Facebook. Jean Dupré. Who do you think will start at defensive back, strong safety, and free safety?
Well, I mean, I think, obviously the one guy, assuming he's healthy and 100%, Aslan, go with your caveat.
Yeah.
Hamza Nasruddin. And I do think he'll be fine. I think he'll be okay physically coming off that knee injury. And so, Hamza Nasruddin will definitely have one of them, probably free safety, but it sounds like they're willing to play him at either one. And then, I don't know if it's going to be I think I like Cyrus Fagan. Yeah. I really like Cyrus Fagan. I thought he came on. He's another guy that's kind of been plagued with some injuries. I also don't think he was always felt like he was in the right positions with what they were doing defensively. So he's a guy I could see definitely starting. I think Jaden Lars would be. We'll see what role they find for him, and whether it's kind of like a hybrid role. But there's a lot of other guys that are going to be pushing. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with Travis Jay, if he's going to stay a corner, if he moves back to DB. Raymond Woody's a talented, really nice player. Brendan Gant's a really nice player. So there's going to be a lot of good competition. But if I had to pick two, I'd go with Hamza and Cyrus. So you think?
Yeah, I agree. I like those picks. I like them a lot. And I do think like that's the one thing we probably don't talk enough about with losing the spring practice was those practices probably been quite pivotal and illuminating for the staff to kind of know where they wanted to put Travis Jay. Because I know they talked about how important it is to have a good cornerback in this defense, how a solid cornerback is much more important than a good free safety in the scheme they want to run. I always feel like he just projects better at safety, but what do I know, obviously. And then cornerback, you got a wealth of riches, right?
Yeah, and there's a ton of options. Yeah, a ton of options at corner.
Asante and then who? Akeem at the other one?
Probably Akeem, but then Renardo Green. I like Renardo Green. I like
and then Mako Dotson obviously transferring.
Yeah, you got Mako Dotson transferring in. We don't know Carlos Becker. I don't know if he's a corner or a safety, but he is a senior. He's been in the program 5 years now.
Yeah,
he's definitely athletic enough. It's just a question of, and again, it's hard for me to make judgments on some of these guys based on what we've seen the last 2 or 3 years. Because
Ira's internet's going a little bit shoddy, it looks like, so he froze up. I'll try to forge ahead while we get the namesake of Scho-Time. That is Ira Schoffel back with us here. I'm gonna go to a one shot so he's. Oh, there we go. Oh, yeah.
The scheme.
Yeah, I'll have to text Ira and let him know. Although, it's going to be tough for me to talk and text. We'll just see how, multifaceted I can be. But yeah, the defensive line is going to be really solid. So, who really needs to be all that good of a cover corner when you've got Marvin Wilson and you've got Corey Dern and Robert Cooper breathing down people's throats? So I'm trying again. I can't do it. I don't know how you kids can do it these days, talk and text at the same time. But I'm trying. So, anywho. All right, let's go to another question here. I'll ask this question when we do get Ira back, Don Will, 4862, because it's his show. I don't want to preview special teams because, what is there to really talk about with special teams? The kicker's either going to be Parker Grotehouse or Ryan Fitzgerald. Punt return is probably going to be DJ Matthews. We saw Brian Robinson fielding kickoffs. We saw, I think, Corbin back there. No, we didn't see Corbin back there, but we did see Brian Robinson. We'll take a phone call, though. How about that? Welcome into Scho-Time with Ira Schoffel. Can you turn down your computer for me, champ?
Okay.
There we go. All right, a little bit better.
There we go.
There we go. I think now we're good. All right, we got Ira back too. That's perfect. All right, Ira's back here.
Right.
We got a phone call. I don't even know who's on the phone, Ira. So identify yourself to Scho-Time with Ira Schoffel.
This is Ed in Pensacola.
All right.
Hey, Ed.
Ed in Pensacola. All right, man. What's going on?
Oh, not much. We're just listening to the show. You know, I heard someone earlier talking about getting 3 2-star, 4-star. But I remember because I was in Tallahassee in between 75 and 79 when Bowden came, and that's what he was recruiting. He took 2, 3, and 4 stars and made them what they were and changed our program. So hopefully that's something Norvell can do. It's all up to coaching.
All right. That's fair. But
Yeah, I mean, I'm
sure it helped, man. Dion's helped.
Yep.
Those guys helped out a lot.
That's true. The linemen definitely need to be recruited very well.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I mean, I think especially with a new coaching staff, people just have to hope that these guys are good evaluators, and then they can develop them and coach them up. Because to your point, you know, you could sign the best players in the world, the best athletes in the world, but if you can't coach them, it doesn't matter. These coaches have to be able to they have to be able to evaluate, they have to be able to recruit to actually get them to come, and then they've got to develop them. I think, you know, for a little, you know, as you said, Coach Bowden's staff did a great job of that. You know, finding guys like Andre Wadsworth, who knew, you know, as a walk-on, and some of the guys that that were not super highly recruited early on, but then they developed them, and he had the same staff in place for so long, which was essential. You know, Coach Fisher's staff, I think, did a really good job of that for a few years. Then it tailed off, and you know, obviously Willie wasn't here long enough to see if he could have done it. But you're right. You're right. It's not just recruiting superstars. It's evaluating, developing.
All right, Ed.
Right.
Thanks
And
for
it's
the
the
call.
coaching. And I think we've got a great coaching staff that can teach these guys. I'm really impressed with Norvell.
All right. Thanks for the call.
Yeah,
Ed.
I think so.
All right. You're welcome. Thanks.
Take care.
All right. Sorry, he had to get your little echo of you back on his computer or whatever. With that said, how about we take this question from earlier? This comes from YouTube. Derek Neal. How would having no season affect the 2021 class? Because that's what we're kind of hanging the hats on, right? If you're a Florida State fan, is let this staff coach, show the turnaround on the field, and then you reap the benefits of the fruits of your labor and turning things around.
Yeah, I mean, what's really happened is you've got so many kids have committed early. I mean, the numbers are crazy for the number of players that have committed at this point in the year. It's way more than would usually be committed, and a lot of it's because these kids haven't taken visits yet, so they're committing to have something in place. And then the feeling is at schools like Florida State and some other schools that as the season plays out, a lot of this may change. Now, a school like North Carolina, for example, has been super hot, and they've gotten all these kids committed. They got a big kid committing today. I mean, they're
our cornerback from Virginia, the Grimes kid, man.
I mean, it's they're North Carolina's rolling. But I would say this: if the season happens and North Carolina does not maintain the success that they had this past season, then they may lose some of that momentum. They may lose some of those guys. And schools like Florida State maybe can jump in there. If the season doesn't happen, it's really hard to imagine Florida State making up any ground. And I think it's just going to come down to the guys keeping the guys they've got, and then making the best of what they can get. You know, of guys that are out there, and really finding is, you know, I think JJ mentioned earlier, finding those guys that nobody else is recruiting, and find guys that are going to fit in their system. Do what they did at Memphis. You know, they had a lot of those guys at Memphis were 0 stars, 1 stars, 2 stars. They're going to have to do that. As Aslan, as you were saying, you know, they really need this season to happen and to play well to get some to switch some guys, to flip some guys. If there's no season, they're not going to be able to do that. It's this whole class has been so hard for this. It's unfair to judge them on this class because everything got shut down in the spring when they had kids coming for visits, and then all summer they haven't been able to hold camps or anything else. If there's no season, I mean, it's just you can't even imagine a tougher situation for a first-year staff.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, because of what North Carolina is doing right now, and it wasn't like they set the world on fire last season, but is it too soon to say that, you know, like Norvell doesn't have the juice? And I don't think that's like a death shot. I don't think that's like a major defect. I mean, there's some. I think if you are a really good tactician, if you're really organized, if you have a very good vision of what you want your program to look like, and then you've got the guys like your James Coley's and your Eddie Grants that recruit really well as assistant coaches, I mean, you can still have a successful program. But I mean, it's a little bit discouraging, I would think, the fact that like I mean, again, Michael's kind of corrected me a few times when we've talked about this in recruiting, but like I don't even know who they're really involved with that's on that upper crust of things. It's like we see arrivals when you guys go, ooh.
They're only involved with a small handful of guys at that level right now. And it also comes down to what but I also think it's unfair to evaluate where they are because they haven't coached here yet. You and Corey, sometimes I know Corey definitely makes this point about that 2010 class that Jimbo had. Well, Jimbo was here for 3 years. He had been here building those relationships. He was at Greg Reed's. I went and covered Lowndes High School's banquet, Greg Reed's senior year, him and Gerald Demps, where Jimbo was invited by Coach McPherson to go speak at their banquet, and I went and covered it. And that was before he was even named head coach. And Jimbo's already there. And after the banquet, Jimbo is hanging out with Greg Reed's grandmother. He was able to go on the road when head coaches couldn't go out on the road. And he could go out at a time when head coaches couldn't be out. He could be out knowing that he was going to be the next head coach and laid all that groundwork. So, that's an impossible standard to live up to. No first-year coach is going to walk into that. What I think you did have with North Carolina is, Mack Brown is really personable. He's always been a great recruiter. He's got a really good staff. And I think you got a really super hot quarterback. That Florida State doesn't have a super hot quarterback, at least anybody's seen on the college level. And they haven't shown anything yet with this coaching staff. And you've gone through 3 straight bad seasons. So I think it's way too early to pass any kind of judgment. And again, I just think you have to, if you're a Florida State fan and you think Mike Norvell is the right guy, you just have to believe that he's going to evaluate well and show enough this season so that in 2022 and 2023, they can really make some hay.
All right. Here's a question from YouTube from Keyston. I guess it kind of speaks to, let me go back here to, we're talking about how soon will Luke Altmaier receive his 5th star after his Elite 11 performance this week, asking for a friend. I mean, that's a guy that, I think right now sits at 4 stars, but Florida State was ahead of the curve on offering him. Yeah. So that kind of underscores your point about whether or not the staff can just, kind of be good evaluators and then everything else will fall into place because, Alabama's now hot on his trail. So those are good encouraging things. So,
and it sounds like he's done well at the Elite 11. There was just 1 day so far. So we'll see how he does. I haven't heard anything about how they did today and then they've got 1 more day there. But I think he was a 3-star when they offered him and he signed or committed. And like you said, a lot of other people are involved now. So I don't know that he's going to be a 5-star guy, but he certainly looks like they got value there. And I really think that's going to be the key with this whole class because with COVID shutting everything down, it's going to really come down to evaluations. And that means a lot of guys are probably going to be underevaluated and it's going to be up to underrated. And it's going to be up to the best coaching staffs to find those players.
Hey, let's take a question from the Tribal Council on warchant.com. RN Good. Ira, any idea of the attitude of the players that are on campus?
I mean, this time of year, everybody always feels good about what's going on campus. I mean, I will say this, everybody I've talked to a lot of different people in the department and the football program over the last 6 months. They're very happy with the way they've been received by these players. The players from everybody I've talked to are frustrated about what's happened the last couple of years, but they're not mad about who got fired or who got replaced. They want to win. They want to play well. So the attitudes have been really good. Really across the board, everything I've heard has been really positive. I do think some players right now are nervous and antsy about what's going to happen with the COVID-19. And you've got players testing positive, just like they are on campuses around the country. And I think there's a lot of uneasiness about how this is all going to work out. But again, I mean, across the board, it sounds like these players have really embraced this new regime, which is, what you definitely want to hear.
You kind of touched on this, I guess, earlier, but Smiley Noel was asking if you could see the game in Atlanta against West Virginia being canceled and then replaced with a smaller school at Doak on the first for the first game of the season.
My guess is that's the last resort.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a game going to be played, I would think that it's not playing West Virginia Atlanta that's the problem. It's playing a football game that's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. Especially at this level, I do think one issue that a lot of schools like Florida State and BCS Power 5 programs are concerned about is playing some of these smaller schools at the FCS level or 1AA schools, because whether or not they have the money to do all the testing. And so, while we think Florida State and Notre Dame and Miami and everybody else can pay to have all these kids tested and all the protocols in place, if you're playing a school that doesn't have much of a budget, there's going to be concerns there about whether or not they're doing everything they need to do. So I don't think you're going to see Florida State or West Virginia look to play smaller schools. I think they'd love to play each other. They just got to figure out a way to make it make sense.
Before we had some technical issues, Ira, this question has been asked. It's been posed twice by Don Will 4862. I punted on it. No pun intended. If you want to preview special teams,
that's another one that's really hard to say, a kicker, because, I think Ryan Fitzgerald, was really highly regarded coming out of high school. He struggled last year. That's the reason when, he didn't get much of an opportunity when he came in, and we saw him a little bit last year in preseason, and it looked like he was struggling to make the transition to college. He looked like in the spring he was getting the first reps over Growthhouse, at least in the 2 or 3 days we saw. So maybe it's his time. Maybe he's going to take off. If not, at least we know Growthhouse has kicked in college games. He's kicked at Florida State. The nerves won't be an issue. The question is the accuracy. He's definitely got a huge leg. And then a punter, I just assume it's going to be Alex Mastromano, the guy from Australia. You have to assume he's got a big leg. He was recruited by other schools. He's an older kid. He's played, he's a big, strong kid. I don't know that we saw enough out of Tommy Martin. Tommy Martin looked great early on last year. It kind of faded. So my guess it's going to be Mastromano. And then returns, man, they got a ton of guys. DJ Matthews, you'd expect back at punt returns, but you got Keyshawn Helton. I know he wants to return kicks again, assuming he's healthy. And you got a lot of options. Travis Jay, I think, will be in the return game. A lot of options in the return game.
Yeah, I think I misspoke and said Corbin, but it was Brian Robinson and Labor, and I saw both back there returning kicks in those first few days of spring practice. So those guys were pretty dynamic with the ball in their hands. So that's always a good thing here. Don Will's already asked a question. I don't want to give him too much. Yeah, somebody was asking about this, I think, over on the Tribal Council. Let me pop back over there here. And it's OP Taylor. Now that we've seen the transfer portal and how it works, how do you suppose future recruiting classes will be ranked? I would think transfers have to get figured in there somehow. Suppose you only have 15 high school recruits, but 15 more transfers. Do you get penalized if you only have 15 high school kids?
Man, honestly, it's a great question. And it's something I think that, the recruiting services probably need to look at, or at least anybody in the media needs to look at, is I really feel like, we grade these recruiting classes in February, which is fine, and that's just what we've always done. And then they're doing the early class evaluations in December with the early signing period. Although my guess is that's not going to be happening this year because everything's been pushed back. But I really feel like there's a market. maybe I'll talk to Gene and say we want to do it, or somebody who's watching this could do it. But I really feel like there needs to be a summer grading the offseason moves, kind of like the hot stove in baseball, or because the rosters are changing so much between December and the following August. And it's not just about those 25 guys you're bringing in. It's who did you cut loose? Who came in? This roster is going to be a third different from what it was a year ago. So that needs to be evaluated.
Yeah. Casey Owens mentions Toafili returning kicks possibly. And then William McMillan also mentions Corey Wren. Speedster.
Oh, man.
So that's a good point. Good points by both those guys. As you call it, Ira, I was at the grocery store today, waiting in line at Publix at the deli to get my cold cuts, and I breathed weird, so I hit something in the back of my throat, and I'm like, I just want a half pound of the turkey right back. I ran out of Publix, took my mask off, and just coughed like crazy. outside and then ran back in like there was nothing wrong. So
if you coughed at the deli counter, somebody might have clotheslined you.
I told Lee, I'm like, I have to cough. I'm like, I'll be right back. I just ran out. It was great. Don Will's got a pretty good one here. Ira, I'm gonna set you up for success. I think you can knock this one out the park. Don Will, 4862. Any chance a transfer will start? If so, who?
Yes. Next question. No, there's a bunch of them. I mean, I think Jashawn Corbin could start. I think Miko Dotson could start.
Close. You're getting warm. There's one that you already mentioned, Ira, earlier that's going to start. He's got 3 names.
3 names. Yeah, there's no doubt there. Devontae Love-Taylor will be starting at right tackle. There's several options. Again, the UCLA tight end could possibly start. I mean,
is he here? I saw some people posting like they didn't see him on the roster. I didn't double check. I probably should have before I just said that. But people are like, where is he at? I don't see him on the roster.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he has to finish school this summer before he can come or not. But every indication is he's going to be here as a grad transfer, and they're going to play 2 tight ends a lot. So there's a real chance. I mean, he's a big physical kid. I think there's a good chance he'll start too. So it could be several guys.
Okay. I think the phone line is going a little wonky right now. I'm trying to sign back into that. We'll take a final question off the tribal council, and then I'll get the phone line back up. Maybe we'll take a final phone call. Tennis Ump asks Ira, since we really only have less talent than 2 teams that they face this season, that being Clemson and Florida, how much of an impact will improved coaching have on the season?
Yeah, you can look at it that way, and I think to a degree, I would agree with you. Except the problem is there's 2 positions that we all know are concerned.
Uh-oh. Did I lose you, Ira? I think Ira's about to say there's 2 positions that stand out. Probably going to say quarterback, I imagine.
Yeah, quarterback and offensive line. I mean, if we don't know how those are going to be. So if they get good quarterback play, if they get B quarterback play and C plus offensive line play, then I'm with you. They can beat everybody on that schedule other than probably those 2 teams, and maybe they can beat Florida. But the problem is we don't know yet what they're going to get at quarterback or offensive line.
You're right. B, I put a lot of expectation on Chuba. But yeah, I think like a B, we'll take that. That'd be a good
thing. And also based on what you're asking him to do, I think this is where this coaching staff, a lot of people, the people who are excited about Mike Norvell and this coaching staff want to see that they put the quarterback in a position to not beat themselves. And I think that's one of the places where, FSU beat itself the last couple of years. I mean, so many sacks, so many turnovers, so many tackles for loss. And Florida State gave up more tackles for loss than I think anybody in the country last year. So many negative plays. So with a good defense didn't have a chance. With what should be a good defense, if they manage the game better and you have a quarterback who just doesn't make mistakes and gets the ball to his athletes, I think there's a recipe there to do really well. I think that's what Mike Norvell needs to do. This is not a year, I think, where you're going to have an offense trying to rack up a ton of yards and a ton of points when you've got a defense that should be the strength of your team, I think, anyway.
Remember when they scored 31 points in the first half of that opener?
Dude, there's a tweet I made when I don't know, when they had scored their 4th touchdown or whatever. I tweeted something about Kendall Briles and like a GIF about Kendall Briles when he saw the talent on this roster and he got to come in. And dude, I got trolled for the next, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, every single game. Florida fans and Miami fans would just kill me with that tweet. I've never wanted to delete a tweet so bad. Yeah, that was a good 30 minutes.
All right, we've just about hit an hour. Let's take this final question off the tribal council from Rick Talley 21. Obviously wanting to know about the commissioner with John Swofford announcing he'll retire after this academic or athletic year, rather. ACC wouldn't hire the former AD as commissioner, would they? I don't know if you mean the former AD here or
yeah, he means Stan Wilcox. I would not expect that. I mean, Stan Wilcox does have a lot of connections in the ACC. Obviously, he worked for Kevin White, who's the AD at Duke. He worked on that staff. He worked at Notre Dame, so he worked on that staff there. He played at Notre Dame. He worked in the Big East office, so he's worked in the conference office. He's at the NCAA now. I cannot imagine that there's any chance Stan Wilcox is going to be the next commissioner of the ACC. In fact, though, I don't think it's going to be one of these Swofford proteges, and those are the names you keep hearing. You're hearing a lot of talk about a lot of the Swofford proteges, and I just have a feeling it's going to be from outside. I think it's going to be not outside the conference necessarily. I think Dan Radakovich, or there's been some talk about Carla Williams at Virginia. I wouldn't be surprised if it was somebody with some ACC ties, but I'll be very surprised if it's somebody from the current ACC power structure, because I really feel like there's a desire in the conference to kind of go in a new direction. That's my thought.
It's crazy. I should look this up before I let it exit my mouth. I'm pretty sure Mike Slive, who led the SEC through their unprecedented growth, like he came from like the Sun Belt or Conference USA. Like he came from a lesser conference. He wasn't at a Power 5 conference, and then he lands a job with the SEC, and then look where they're at now. So you don't necessarily have to maybe get the big fish if they've got really good forward-thinking ideas. So I guess we'll see on that. You saw it probably on the screen here earlier. I'll pop it up again, folks. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern time, Michael Langston, recruiting chat. We'll take your phone calls, your comments on YouTube, maybe a couple of the questions over on the premium recruiting board. Use the promo code WARCHANT30 to post over there and to be absolutely dialed into everything that's going on with Florida State recruiting. Ira would know he edits most of that stuff. We've got, 25 of the best prospects that are sophomores right now. We're looking, speaking of forward thinking, we're looking that far ahead into the future too, Ira. Can't stop, won't stop.
The funny thing about that is we put up the 25 to watch for the 2022 class, which is guys going into their junior years of high school. And they are in the mix. I think it encouraged some fans because, at least on our message boards, because they are involved with a lot of 4-stars in that group. They just got such a late start coming in with this group and then not being able to get kids on campus. They've had a tougher time with it. But with those 2022 kids, if they have a good, successful season, they're in the mix with a lot of those 4-star guys.
Otherwise, what will be going on over at Word Chant this week, Ira? I know we also have an update, some probably good news for recruiting fans with Michael in terms of his thoughts on a defensive line prospect, some updates on that to come here soon.
Yeah, he's got his next daily nugget coming up, which I think we're going to be dropping tomorrow on the site. We also have we're going to start some previews of FSU's opponents for 2020. So I've got a preview coming on West Virginia, kind of like what they've got coming back. We did a sit-down interview with somebody that covers them, so we'll have that as well. So, and I'm about to cough again, Aslan, so you may want to wrap it up.
I edited the preview of West Virginia. I'm moving that from the coin flip to 60-40 Florida State, so thanks for that, Ira. We appreciate it. It's been Showtime with Ira Schoffel, the managing editor of WarChant.com, been on the beat since 2002. He knows pretty much everything. Ira, thanks for your time, man. Go be a dad now.
Thanks, man. Take care.